No, I didn't make it at all, really.
I didn't.
How's Beth doing?
She's doing well. Yeah.
I may slipping back during the meeting.
If you want to oppose something or endorse something, help y'all sail.
Okay.
I will add you to the sign-up sheet.
Yes, sir.
It's electronic?
It is, yes it is.
Yeah.
I'll put you on there.
I don't know if, how the chairman wants to work things, but it is electronic, it's that option.
Yes.
How are you?
Hi, sir. How you doing?
I'm gonna leave that up so Jeff can put you.
What up?
This is working, but, and it's not fine either.
Well, you know, I can just go, just use
You
my
can,
finger.
but just leave that, do you need,
Can I
did you
use
do
this?
anything? Yeah, you can
Well,
just.
it's gonna start in 9 minutes or something.
They were trying to like restore the printer.
I don't need a printer. I have this. If I have the only reason I would need the printer, I can go back to my office and print it.
Yeah.
I can electronically vote.
Yeah.
If somebody misses the vote, I'll have it here.
Yeah.
So, it's
I know, just trying to make things easier.
We'll get the average on this thing, so Berlin, we should fix it up pretty good.
Here, two chairs, two here.
Alright. Yes, ma'am. How you doing, sir?
Hi, Delegate Fowler, how are you?
Yes, sir.
Good to see you. I like Ashland, I like Ashland.
That's good, it's good.
I've been to Dennisville ever since I went to college there.
Well, you been back, okay,
Yeah, I still go up there and,
So it's changed a little bit.
oh my gosh.
It was Spartan and that kind of thing.
Well, I remember the cafeteria, the one, they don't think it's anything great. When we had, the cockroaches were in it, I think.
Like, Sandals, Ashland and that place, but it's I live a little east of town in between, Ashland and the courthouse on Mountain Road, you know, but you got too much Ashland centric. Called 32 years ago.
There's somebody out that road. Jimmy Castleberg. He's on right after 54. He's the grandson of Caravati, who had the junk store
I
downtown.
know Caravati, I
Yeah,
know about
this
but he's on 54 Mountain Road.
Somewhere back in town.
Yeah, okay.
When they had his daughter's reception for a wedding there, they got a lot of the stuff from Caravati's, like chandeliers hung from the trees. Put like windows on hanging from the trees.
Anyway,
How are you doing? It's good to see you. Yeah. Are you still on militia police, right?
No, I going off last year and put me on general law.
Oh, okay.
So they're getting more work out of me now.
I wouldn't even recognize the committee anymore.
Well, it's still a lot of the, same folks, but I'm not it's just that, again, it's been a while. So much crap, I mean, I understood all that.
General law
has
says
a lot.
it's got doesn't fit anywhere else. Oh my gosh. Learning FOIA? That's wonderful.
Licensure stuff, real estate, all the property stuff. I know I'm reading other stuff.
Well, then there's all
ABC
the
stuff.
yeah. Got one. Is Gilbert's not still chair, is he?
No, like a
Peace. Okay.
on there, a lot of it seemed to be very nice church, stuff came through, which is all the ABC stuff.
Okay. Do you guys get to go on field trips with the ABC?
No, we haven't done that. I mean, hey, if I got time, I'm willing to go anywhere. We've done that.
Well,
Yeah, we do, you know, all the games and stuff.
oh yeah. Yeah, keeping you busy. I know militia police, we had like maybe 3 chapters of a title, and that was pretty much it. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I know, it's just,
Where I am.
I know. I talked to somebody yesterday, yes, it's gonna be like that.
People don't have time. I just write down every single thing that I have going on. So
Yeah, right, I know. People are like, I saw your emails. That's great, but you're gonna. I don't know.
Hey, Barbara, how are you?
Yep, you
No printer, no water.
Reed's and Reed's highly.
That's all right, we're good.
But I think we might keep
So we'll keep reading for last.
Yeah.
So you'll be one too. Yes, ma'am.
Already checked.
I
found out.
Good. Well, it's coming up. Everything's good. You know, calm and go home. Relax.
Between 81, Bristol, gambling, gaming.
Well, other than that.
Not really anything.
We need 5.
Hello.
We got 3 minutes, 2 minutes.
I thought you were about to say, do you have to sit next to me? Yes, now you do.
Mr. Chairman, we are going without a printer,
Okay.
so we'll vote electronically,
Sure.
which you won't be able to see. I'll announce the results. Then if I have to run, get any other votes, I can just.
That's right, it's the peanut room for some reason.
I'm adding value, adding
That's
value.
it, there he is.
We're saving it for last. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. So that's okay. I think we'll be out here by then.
Only in this room, apparently. I don't know where they.
Service is going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, yeah, that.
They might still be here from last year.
Right.
At some point, we can have great
Say expired 1988.
That's a new one, that's a new one. These people were eating them last year, so they're gonna be a replacement.
Last ballot there, the Obama.
For the cameras on this.
Comedy's hard.
Yeah.
Oh my. Okay. All right. It's 4. I'd like to call this subcommittee meeting to order. I think for a little housekeeping, we'll first introduce everyone. Let everyone introduce themselves, and we'll go from there. So, Dr. Collins.
Delegate Chris Collins, Winchester, 29th District.
David LaRock, the 33rd House District, beautiful rolling hills of western Loudoun, Clark, and Frederick counties.
Jason Miaras, most beautiful sunsets in the entire globe in Virginia Beach, 82nd District.
Glenn Davis, Virginia Beach, 84th District.
Todd Killian, the 4th House District, which is a lot of Southwest Virginia.
David Reed, delegate from the 32nd District, Eastern Loudoun County, where the hub of the internet is.
Emma Vaughn, staff attorney.
Robert Asplin, I'm from the clerk's office. I'm representing the fashionable West End of Richmond.
Well, welcome everyone. Today we have 5 pieces of legislation to consider, and we have a sign-up list, and Delegate Reed has signed up first, but since he's with us the entirety of this, hopefully the entirety of this, we're gonna go ahead and start with Delegate Delaney with House Bill 1818. Welcome, and tell us about your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. So, current law, Virginia Code allows a governing body of a county by ordinance to create regulations on parking within its limits, including the installation and maintenance of parking, in which they are able to use a department, official, or employee of the county to enforce these regulations. However, only cities with a population of at least 40,000 are allowed to provide a summons or parking ticket for violation by uniformed personnel serving under contract with the city. This bars counties of the same population from contracting out enforcement services and forces their already overworked police officers, members of their sheriff office, and other uniformed personnel to use their working hours checking parking meters rather than working in the community and protecting residents. So the bill before you changes current Virginia Code language to allow all localities with a population of at least 40,000 to exercise the option to contract out their parking services enforcement activity. This does not mandate that localities contract out these services, but allows for the local governing bodies to consider all potential options, including those that may be most cost effective for enforcement of metered parking should the county want to implement such an ordinance in the future. Ultimately, it creates legal consistency between cities and counties and allows for a more efficient allocation of county and town resources.
Okay. All right. Is anyone here to speak in favor of the bill?
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Jeff Gore on behalf of Loudoun County, for the reasons expressed, the county supports the legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris McDonald, Virginia Association of Counties, for reasons expressed, we support this legislation. Thank you.
Anyone else in favor? Anyone opposed? Any questions from the committee? Is there a motion?
Motion to report. I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so,
Delegate Rock.
when the city's over 40,000 contract this, how do they contract it out to it? And who kind of oversees the interests of the public so that we don't have cowboys out being overly whatever?
Delegate Rock, committee members, I can tell you that in Virginia, we're aware of 3 cities over 40,000 that do this now. Virginia Beach, Roanoke City, and Richmond. There are vendors in this space. I mean, there are companies that's what they do. I can't vouch for those companies or tell you who they are. I do know that those cities have been doing this. I certainly know as a resident of Richmond, they've been doing it for a long time. So I know there are companies that's what they do, and they manage. Now, they are sort of on a contract, so there is a county or city administration would oversee that vendor, certainly. So there would be a check on that through a contract.
Okay. Follow-up questions? So is there a particular section of code where I could look, sorry, I haven't done it prior to this meeting, but where I would see the limits, the parameters are set on private contractors, ordinance for hire?
I think, and I'd let you speak to what the localities, I'm sure that would be an MOU that the locality would probably have the authority to determine what their parameters are for contracting. The only thing that this piece of legislation, it strikes the word city and changes it to locality, so we're essentially what cities are already allowed to do and the standards at which we're already allowing them to do that, we're extending to localities such as Loudoun and as represented today. So that we already have cities in Virginia who are operating under the existing parameters, and we're wanting to extend that to to other localities that may not be cities, but counties.
Yeah, Mr. Gore, is part of the emphasis that for this, the arrival of Metro into the eastern part of Loudoun County and all of the additional parking spaces that will be there?
That's correct. That's sort of the policy impetus that caused the county to start looking at this. When they started looking at it and realizing that they're focusing development around those metro stops that are going to be constructed in the county, parking decks, there will be meters, whatever, just around those stations.
Mhm.
And when they looked into it further, they realized we're going to have to allocate our sheriff deputies or our building code officials to this. We don't have the extra staff to do that. They thought they could do it much more efficiently via contract, and so that is what's driving this.
Okay, thank you.
So in the case that this is subbed out, meaning, to me, that means, contract enforcement for hire. How are the fees, managed? Where do fines go? Do they go to the subcontractor, as with a red light camera or a school stop arm camera, or do they go to the county in this case?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would say that it's going to be the same way that it's allocated, whether they're using sheriff or their local uniformed officer. They're just gonna have the opportunity to have a bid to see if that ends up costing, there'd obviously be a cost to procuring the service, but if a locality is seeing that that's cheaper and more efficient for their location, like Richmond and Virginia Beach have done, they're seeing that that's a cost saving for the community, then the allocation wouldn't change. It would just be the way that is happening here in Richmond and in Virginia Beach. They would have that authority to have a bid come in, see if that's cost efficient for their location, and if they've seen that that's a good investment to have their uniformed officers out patrolling streets and keeping the community safe instead of checking the parking meters, we'd like to see that be an option for them, for counties as well as cities.
I was gonna ask, just a follow-up question to our staff. We still have judicial oversight, so that if there's a ticket, there's still a judicial procedure to be able to dispute that ticket, correct?
Mr. Chairman, yes, this would allow, the contracted individuals to, issue the ticket, but it would still go through the same judicial process.
And all this does is changes the word city to locality. All the other parameters are still in place. Okay.
Correct. Quick question for Councilman.
Of course, no, go on.
Sometimes you have an expert. So if I were to mispark, would the ticket look the same as if I got one from a sheriff?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Okay. Any other questions?
Move to report.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Wait a minute, we're all
Oh, sorry.
Roll.
Yeah, sorry.
How do these?
Here we go. Indicate on the electronic voting. Okay, so bill reports.
Thank you, Mr.
You
Chairman.
shouldn't need to be a full.
I think I will.
Okay.
You guys.
You're always welcome.
I'll be on the
You're
diocese,
always
yeah.
welcome.
I'll be at the
We would love to
diocese.
have you. Okay, Delegate Tyler, tell us about your fine bill. This seems
All right.
familiar.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. House Bill 1678 is before you and is presented on the behalf of Mayor Wallace Faison and the Town Council of Denver, located in Surrey County. Basically, House Bill 1678, this legislation will allow the town of Denver to be included in the list of the towns that will allow golf carts as a source of transportation. The town of Denver only has a population of about 250 folks that live there in the town. And the land area is just about 3.6 square miles. These constituents would like the opportunity to drive the golf course on their side streets and to their small local events in the town. And here to speak to the bill at the appropriate time, we have, the mayor of Dendrum, along with his vice mayor, Mrs. Evans.
Anyone, so let's go ahead and hear from you, you're standing.
Well, we're a sleepy little retirement community. If you've ever been through Denver, you probably don't know where it's at. But anyway, we're 7 miles from 460 where the Virginia Diner is. Everybody knows where the Virginia Diner is. Got that good fried chicken. Anyway. At times. Well, I'm sorry I didn't bring any chicken.
Yeah, we are too.
Yeah.
Full committee, maybe.
And Ms. Galloway would probably be upset with me as well. But anyway, we would like to add the ability to legally operate golf carts on the side streets where it's no more 25 mile per hour or less. And actually our traffic count on those side streets is very, very low. We have people that push baby carts right down the street with their baby in it. So we would just appreciate it if you would look favorably upon that for us.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for making the trip to Richmond.
You're welcome, thank you.
Anyone have any questions? Anyone else to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone opposed to this?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, yes, delegate.
How big are the streets and how big are the golf carts?
Well, they're regular
You have
size
to
streets,
answer.
and I don't know the size of the golf course.
Okay.
Move the report.
Second.
Second.
Yes, Delegate Little Rock.
So would this be the first municipality in the Commonwealth?
No.
No.
We have them all over North End of Virginia
Yeah.
Beach.
Mr. Chairman, we allow all localities to do this except for towns that do not have their own police department, and there already are a list of towns that do not have their own police department that are allowed to do this in addition to all the rest of the localities in the Commonwealth.
We don't want to be first sometime. We don't want to.
No. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second.
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 Okay. All right, please indicate on the electronic voting. Report 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you all, we appreciate it.
They're pretty conventional.
All right, Delegate Blocks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
House Bill 1777.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty lucky. Let's smoke it out.
Town of Cape Charles, 1880s railroad town. Some of the streets away from the main street anyway are separated by a median with crepe myrtles in it. The roads are fairly narrow. I've got pictures if you'd like to see. Their issue is that people parking boats with the trailer on the street. And once you do that, not only is it hard for a car to get through, but it would be impossible for a fire truck to get through. And they have no way of preventing it, no way of doing it. So they'd like to be added to the list of towns on this Christmas tree that can regulate parking something large like a trailer on their streets.
All right. Anybody in the audience to speak in favor of the bill? Anybody opposed? Any questions from the committee?
Move for report?
Second.
That's a question.
All right. Let's vote.
Qualified statement.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dang it. Delegate Fowler,
Sure.
step right up.
Thank you, Mr.
House
Chairman.
Bill 1648, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This bill came to me from the town of Ashland, and of course, I know folks are aware of it, but Ashland is the center of the universe. And of course, Hanover, and I'm a tenant on my wife's farm, which is a satellite that revolves around Ashland. But anyway, Ashland, I guess, is not unique in that, like a lot of small towns, we have like the main drag going through there, and we have lots of restaurants all over the place, a post office on the main drag. We also have a newly opened movie theater, which hopefully folks will have renovated, very historic, so hopefully, Dolores will come out and do the next movie out there. And then to add, to up the ante, we also have Randolph-Macon College, where, college students like to wander all over every place, right? So anyway, so Ashland wants to join the little miniature Christmas tree of towns who are, or in cities who are allowed to, pass a ordinance, which I guess is pretty self-explanatory. They provide for installation of maintenance of highway signs that mark crosswalks, and then requiring motorists to yield right away to pedestrians. And if they fail to do so, they could be issued a traffic infraction of up to $500. And so we gave the town to pass an ordinance, and I talked with the chief of police up there, anyways, and that's appreciate committee's time. So yep, that's all I have.
Thank you, Delegate.
Yep.
Anyone here to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone opposed to speak? Anyone in the committee have any questions? Delegate Roy.
There's no fiscal impact. I guess this is, who bears the
Not
cost of the
unless you
signs?
run over a pedestrian in the crosswalk.
Be a little more specific. So when the town manages its own signage, who pays for it?
Well, I would assume the town would, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's another reason to pass it.
Yeah, absolutely, so yeah.
Any other questions?
Move to report.
Second. All right. We have a motion and a second. I'll indicate their votes. Bill reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
No problem. And last but certainly not least.
You're rolling through today, Mr. Chairman.
I'm trying my best.
Do it.
Legislative.
The new year. There you go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so House Bill 1705 is to basically, so let me set the stage for you. If you can imagine that as you are leaving out of the area from Loudoun County and you are headed east away from Dulles Airport in towards Fairfax County, then what you end up with is that you have a choice of being on the Dulles Toll Road, which is tolled, and the tolls there just increased from $1 to $1.50 for the off ramps, and at the main toll plaza went from $2.50 to $3.25. So it's a significant increase. That's an increase of 50% in one area and 30% on the other area. What the intent of this bill is to do is to be able to allow some passengers, some commuters who are actually going to be HOV2 vehicles to be able to offload onto the eastbound Dulles Access Road. And I will tell you, as a personal experience, because I drive this road every morning, as I sit there in the traffic on Dulles Toll Road headed east, I can see the eastbound access lane roads being underutilized. It's basically an underutilized asset for being able to move commuters of 3, 4, 5 vehicles. So the intent here is that those individuals who are HOV2 would be able to offload into eastbound lanes, the eastbound access lanes, and then be able to go all the way down and then exit off on Route 7, and thereby avoiding the $3.25 toll at the eastern end of the road. Now, I know that having talked with the folks from MLA, they're concerned about, of course, access to and from the Dulles Airport, but I would contend that despite all of the investments that we have made in Dulles Airport, and it is really very important to the entire region, that this does not actually impede access to the road, and I don't perceive Dulles as being a commuter airport, and therefore people coming in and then going into DC would not really be adversely impacted by this. I know also, and Mr. Cooper will probably speak to this, about the concern about people backtracking. Well, the way that it's actually set up is that individuals could pay the $1.50 on the western end and then have the opportunity to get into the regular toll road and exit into the access roads and then follow that all the way down and get off on Route 7, still saving some money. Again, this is one of those things where as we start to talk about tolling in other parts of the state, tolling in Northern Virginia is a really big deal, and it is a very important issue. And so we're constantly looking for ways to be able to use the assets that are there in place. So again, there's 2 lanes that are headed eastbound that are really kind of underutilized right now. By just limiting this to HOV2, then what it does is it still encourages people to carpool. It will move some of those folks off of the road, where right now we have 1 HOV2 lane, which is filling up with motorcycles, electric vehicles, HOV2, regular cars, and trucks. So that's the intent, is to alleviate some of that pressure, and then alleviate some pressure as well for the individual commuters who are paying a lot in tolls.
All right, thank you. Anybody from the audience to speak in favor of this piece of legislation? I think we have some people that are on the other side, so let's hear from agency first. Does anybody, you don't have any issue?
Mr. Chair, I can't state that we have a position, we have a position on
Okay.
legislation, but, as I discussed with Delegate Reed, there is a legal issue with this legislation, in that we have looked at the law and believe it conflicts with federal law. And the reason I say that is, right now, there's a statute in the federal code, 49, USC 49.110, that says, and it's very short, I'll read it. It says, the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority shall continue in effect and enforce section 4.2I and 2, section 4.21 and 2 of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Regulations as in effect on February 1, 1995. The statute then goes on to say the district courts of the United States have jurisdiction to compel the airports authority and its officers and employees to comply with this section. When you look at the cited sections in the regulations, or NWAS regulations, 4.21 says, and I'm reading it explicitly, except as provided in paragraph 2 of this section, a person may use the Dulles Access Highway only for the purpose of going to or leaving Dulles for airport business, or with the permission of the airport's manager to perform work on the Dulles Access Highway. Use by any person of the Dulles Access Highway for a purpose not authorized by this section is prohibited. And then subsection 2 is exceptions, and it says, the 2 exceptions are buses that are being operated in common carriage of persons by companies holding certificate of public convenience for its operation for use of the Dulles Access Highway is appropriate, or school buses. So that is in a nutshell federal law, which cites the MWAS regulation, and that's the verbiage of MWAS regulations that's been in existence since 1995 at least.
Go ahead.
Is there anybody from the Attorney General's office here that can speak to that? What are your thoughts on that?
Mr. Chairman, I think what, the agency stated is accurate information.
Well, Mr. Chairman, as much as I think we need to have a solution up that way, and as much as I'd like to make this a unanimous meeting, we may be shy of one, and I would just move to lay this on the table.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to lay this on the table. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's,
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I would just applaud the efforts of the delegate, and glad that he is joining me as a Northern Virginia toll warrior.
Did we get a patch?
For no reason other than nostalgia's sake, I was hoping to hear from Mr. Cooper, but I think we probably had adequate testimony here. And,
I might have short-circuited that by having talked to him earlier.
look forward to working with you in the future
Yes.
towards our comments and goals.
All right, we have a love fest going on. We have a motion to second to lay this piece of legislation on the table. I'm assuming that everyone that was here to speak against this piece of legislation is fine with us laying it on the table and continuing and ending this meeting.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
All
members of
right.
the committee.
So,
Open the vote.
all right.
This is a recorded vote now, so.
Okay. thank you to members of the committee and everyone else for being here and that.